Welcome to 1000 PS, welcome to EICMA 2025. This is the opportunity where we get to look at all the new models coming in 2026. It's going to be a long video, it's going to be worth a watch. So lock the doors, put the kids to bed, make sure your partner doesn't disturb you, put the kettle on and get ready for a sit-down review of all the new models for 2026. So we've moved over to the Triumph stand here at EICMA, and funny enough, Triumph have already unveiled all their new models. We've already seen the new kind of classic range, we've got a separate video on that, and we've got a separate video on the new Trident 800. But just to put this into content, Triumph this year have got 29 new models. So somebody's been working all through the night at Triumph in Hinckley in the UK. So let me run through the classic range. We have got the new Bonneville, the T100 and the T120. We've got the new Bobber, we've got the new Speedmaster, the new Scrambler 900 and the new Scrambler 1200. Now essentially what they've done to their classic range is bring it up to modern standards. So we've now got an IMU. Essentially an IMU, you've got one in your phone. When you move your phone around, it moves the picture. It tells you the kind of lean angle, but it's a little bit more sophisticated than the iPhone, but that means we've got cornering ABS and we've got cornering traction control. Throughout the classic range, that goes on every model, including the Scrambler. The Bobber gets a different fuel tank, we've got different colours, we've got different size wheels, but the main difference from previous years to this year is the introduction of those rider aids. We're going to be going out to America in January to ride the majority of these models, so please follow us on social media channels if you want to know about these bikes individually. And we've also got a big video on every one of these modern classic range from Triumph. But let's move from the old bikes to the new bikes and go look at the Trident 800. So we've moved from the sports classic range to the modern era, and this is the new Trident 800. Now, as I said, we've already got an exclusive video all about this bike where we go into lots and lots of detail. But essentially, what Triumph have done is they've got the Trident 660, they've got the 765, and there's a gap in the market because the 660 is appealing to kind of newer, less experienced riders, and the 765 is being developed almost as a race bike. Put a race fairing on that. That's the bike that is based on the TT bike, the British Supersport bike, the bike you see racing around the world. So there's a gap in the market from extreme to kind of entry level, and that's where Triumph hopefully put the Trident 800. So we're looking at the 798cc, 3-cylinder, 115 horsepower if I remember rightly. It's going to have full shower suspension, IMU, lots of rider aids, multiple rider modes, lean sensitive ABS, lean sensitive traction control. It's going to have loads of torque, loads of low down delivery. It's not going to be as extreme as the Street Triple, but it's going to be more fun than the 660, and it's not a speed triple engine in a 660 chassis. It's a completely new bike in itself. I think we're going to get to ride this early next year. One I'm looking forward to because in all the B-roll and all the marketing spiel, it's everybody having a dangerous riding competition, which hopefully I will be doing. So let's move from Triumph to another British manufacturer. Behind me is something that can be easily missed on the Triumph stand, but shouldn't be. So this is their new electric trials bike range, which starts off at the 12, and if I remember rightly, goes to the 24. Now, Triumph took a big share in Ossett, which is an English brand who make electric trials bikes. And they started off making electric trials bikes for his two sons, and the company's developed, and now Triumph have taken it that next stage forward. Now, I'm not going to say that this is just an Ossett sprayed yellow, but it looks pretty cool to an Ossett. But I've ridden these bikes loads, absolutely love them. My son started riding on one of these, and we've still got one of these in a red Ossett colour. Can't wait to try the Triumph version. If you get the opportunity, check them out. These are so much fun in perfect silence. Mark, it doesn't feel like 125 years ago since we was here last, but time flies on, mate. It's a big year for Royal Enfield. What can we expect moving into 2026?
It is, yeah. It's a big year for us. 125 years since the brand started making motorcycles in 1901. And so the first thing to talk about really, I guess, is the 125th anniversary edition. So we've got a classic 650. We've used a hypershift paint. So this is this special paint that has little bits, particles in the paint, and as the light catches it, you get different colorways from it. It kind of so as you walk around it, it changes color, which I think I've not seen done in the industry before. I've seen it done in the four-wheel industry, but never in the bike industry. So we're doing a limited edition with that, which I think has come out beautifully. I really like that. We've then got the Himalayan Rally, so we're doing a kind of the rally seat, our accessory rally seat with the new colourway on that, and some of the other accessories fitted, things like the handguard, so some of the things that just make it a little bit more rally inspired in terms of riding it. And then I guess the big, in the ICE side, the big news is the Bullet 650 for us this year. Bullet is such an important part of our brand. You know, it's the oldest name in motorcycling in terms of...
Is it really the oldest name in motorcycling?
Oldest in continuous production. So it's never ceased production since it started. I think it's either 38 or 39 was when the first time the name was used. And it's never stopped production since then. So, you know, initially in the UK and then in India, but with the overlap, that's never ceased production. So that bike has always been in production. And so for us to do that, you know, that evolution of the 500 into a 650 just felt like the very natural thing to do. I think it looks beautiful. I think it really suits that 650 platform. You know, it has that kind of stance, that image that I think will resonate with certainly with people at home in India, but also globally. You know, I think it's got a really nice, it's got that classic 60s feel to it that I think will work really well.
The original Bullet was the first bike that I rode in India for Enfield back in
Is that right?
04, 05.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. It was the bike back then. Yeah. That was the bike that we made, and you know hundreds of thousands of people have bought and ridden. I mean, it was a seminal motorcycle. I don't know whether you know this, but the original Bullet was the first bike to have an articulating swinging arm. It was one of the first to have telescopic forks. It was one of the first to have a pre-selector on the gearbox. They did a whole bunch of innovation on that bike, and that's pretty much the story of Royal Enfield. So because the Indian Army were looking for a bike that would work on the borders in Pakistan, they wanted something that could ride really well off-road, and the swinging arm allowed that to happen. And then with riders like Johnny Britton and Jack Stoker and people like that in the international six-day trials, you know, it did so well, it then became the perfect choice. And so it's so intrinsically linked to our heritage and our history that not doing it would just be would be a sin, really. So
I can't wait. Yeah, that means a lot to me to see that new Bullet. And then when we move from the Bullet to the modern era with electric.
That's right. So last year we showed our C6, which is our first production EV, which was designed very much to pick up on some of our heritage cues, you know, with the girder front end and so on. This year we've got the S6, which is the Scrambler variant, which is, you know, just a bit more fun. I think it's going to work really well as a little fun bike. You know, people will be able to take it on the trail. I think it will still mostly be a city bike, but it's competent off-road as well, and it works really well off-road. So I think a really, you know, another exciting step for us. We'll probably see that about a year after the C6 comes out, which is slated for later this year, or later next 26.
Yeah, we've got to remember what year we're in. And then last year we also saw the first Flying Flea as well. We had a little chat about...
Yeah, that's the C6. Yeah. So the Flying Flea is the first EV from us. So that's still planned for production at the beginning of 2026. So really exciting times. You know, it's big times for us, and we're continuing to evolve. I mean, there's a few little Easter eggs around the stand. If you see, we've got the EV Himalayan over here, which is an amazing bike to ride. I mean, I rode that up in the Himalayas this summer, and just an incredible motorcycle to ride. I mean, that instant torque that you get is just like a TIE fighter or something. It's just insane how quickly it gets down the road. But, you know, carries its weight really low, is easy to manoeuvre. You don't have any of the, you know, if you're, and I'm not great off-road, but if you're trying to, you know, your cognitive load, you're trying to work out what you're doing as you go through a river crossing or something, you don't have to worry about what gear you're in, you don't have to worry about clutch control. It's all just on the right hand, and it works really nicely. And also your brakes, you know, I've always struggled getting foot off and onto the brake and controlling the rear brake, whereas that's now on the... So many benefits to it that make a lot of sense. That it's that's a really interesting bike to ride. And then we've then got, you know, dotted around the stand, we've got some other little Easter eggs. There's a little bit of a hint over in the corner there of the 750 products that are coming as well. So exciting times.
I guess the final question is when we're going to go ride the new Bullet, where are we going to ride it and when we're going to ride it?
I'm assuming that's going to be over in India, I guess. I don't know. I don't make the rides up, but that's the plan.
If we're doing that, we definitely need an old one.
As well, yeah.
As well.
100% agree. 100% agree. Cool. Yeah, and there is. I mean, they are so charming, the original ones. That thump and that kind of dig, 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 dig. You know, that is just what Royal Enfield's all about, really. So,
I actually met my wife in Goa on a Bullet.
That's amazing. Well, there you go. Well, you need to get one of these then.
Yeah. But I'm not inviting the wife.
Fair enough.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers, mate. Something pretty and something unique from Royal Enfield, because this is a prototype. Now, we know Enfield have got a 650 twin, but this is what we estimate to be a 750 twin. So it's a prototype Royal Enfield with a 750. Normally, the 650s are under 47 horsepower A2 compatible. I imagine with it being a 750, it's going to be above that, maybe 60, maybe 70 horsepower. Royal Enfield tell us it's a prototype that they're testing both on and off-road, which I assume they'll be doing in the Himalayas, where I've ridden many times before. But unusually, a prototype has a lot more cables attached to it. It doesn't look as finished as this. But this looks very much like a finished article. Fully adjustable suspension, massive fuel tank, probably 20 litres. I estimate it'll have ABS. I imagine it'll have some off-road modes. But at the moment, it's a complete prototype. So they're testing the 650, they're testing the 750, seeing how it fits in this new chassis and new format. But if it goes into production, it's going to be a big step for Royal Enfield as they move into a bigger market with more power, with a big, rugged adventure bike from Royal Enfield. So behind me is the newly unveiled 650 Bullet, a bike that is really, really close to my heart, because the first Enfield that I rode in India in 0304 was a 500 Bullet, and then I rode a 350 Bullet, and I actually met my wife riding an Enfield Bullet in India. So this is a bike that I've been really looking forward to. It's still got that amazing, classic, iconic Bullet design. It's one of the oldest names in motorcycling with one of the oldest brands in motorcycling, but now it's got more modern power, more modern technology. This is the familiar 650 twin engine that we've seen in other Enfield models, but now in the iconic Bullet name. Hopefully, according to Mark, we'll be riding this early next year. Hopefully we'll go back to India, and hopefully this will bring back amazing memories of the 500 and the 350. But it's just so great to see that Royal Enfield have injected some modern performance in the iconic Bullet. Can't wait to ride it. Big year for Öhlins here at EICMA 25 into 26, because next year will be 50-year anniversary of Öhlins. Now, if you've not noticed, big change for their logo. So it's complete new branding for Öhlins, which is the first time they've done it in, a long time, which is a big, big ask, because Öhlins don't just produce quality suspension for World Superbikes, BSB, MotoGP, but they're also in NASCAR, in Dakar, in off-road. It's a big job to change all those logos. The new talking point for product is the FKR fork. So that's been around for some time, and it's just had a few little tweaks. The biggest one for me is that the preload adjuster, rather than just turning quarter turns, has actually got clicks like compression and rebound. So when you change your preload, it's much easier to measure. There's a few little internal changes to make it a little bit lighter, but the thing that most of us will notice is that preloads are clicks rather than turns. We've moved over to the Suzuki stand, and it's an exciting year for Suzuki, and they've just unveiled a new model, which makes obvious sense to me that I didn't actually see it coming. But to get more information, we've got Paul from Suzuki. Paul, just run us through that new model.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is our exciting new SV7GX. It's a bike based on our iconic SV650. Been with us 26 years now. Really? So a really proven engine. 500,000 SV engines we've built over the years. So really bulletproof engine, and exciting because that V-twin feeling is just something that customers really enjoy. And I think with the SV7GX, we brought a bike that's got that SV kind of performance, but got a slightly more upright riding position, more commanding view of the road, but also got a low seat height because that SV engine is very narrow, so it kind of really appeals to different riders.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I saw it, I was like, that makes complete obvious sense. Like we all love the SV, we all like the Gladius, we all knew how great the SV was, and it's kind of gone behind the scenes, and everybody's kind of forgotten about it, and now you make a comfortable, practical SV.
Yes.
Yeah, it almost makes complete sense.
Yeah, it really does, and I think it's also going to appeal to riders who might have been considering our V-Strom 650 as well, because it's got some of that V-Strom 650 attitude, certainly the riding position. And great, and brings up to date some new technology, rider modes, traction control, quick shifter. So you've got connected screens, so you can get directions on your screen. So lots of different bits about the technology that kind of be really exciting.
And then in terms of availability, or when we'll get to throw a leg over the bike?
Well, the bike will be at the NEC show in the UK, so you'll be able to come and sit on it then. In terms of availability, late summer. So, yeah.
And then also interesting, you've already unveiled the GSX-R online,
Yes.
but we've actually got one here. So
Yes.
just to run as a quick one again to recap on the GSX-R.
Yeah, so it's our 40th anniversary, so obviously exciting from that point of view. And of course, an iconic bike, GSX-R 1000 and GSX-Rs in general. Excited to bring that back, meeting the latest regulations so we're able to come back into the market in Europe. So we're really looking forward to that, and actually it's really hit the mark with customers.
Yeah.
We've already got lots of pre-orders, lots of excitement, lots of people talking to us about GSX-R, so we're really excited about that. Again, it's going to be at the NEC show, so customers can come and see it there, so that would be great, and that bike's going to be available in the spring.
And the last question, and probably the most important, when do I get to ride the GSX-R?
I think you'll probably get to ride one in the spring.
Looking forward to it. And
Great.
apart from seeing that the SV's come back to life and the GSX-R comes back to life, it now makes me feel really old. Because I remember the first SV and the GSX-R. So thanks for your time, and thanks for making me feel really old. Cheers, mate. The GSX-R is back. It's the 40th anniversary of the GSX-R, which makes me feel really old, but it also makes me feel really happy to see the GSX-R. We've already done a full video on the GSX-R at 1000 PS because this bike was unveiled online 3-4 months ago, but this is the first time we've seen the bike in the flesh, which has got the new winglets, it's got the new ECU, it's got the new chassis, it's got the new engine internals. It's going to be interesting when we get to ride the GSX-R because this category, which of 1000cc litre bikes was starting to drop a bit, seems to have picked up because we've got a new Kawasaki ZX-10R around the corner as well. Hopefully, me and Mr. Bauer will be riding this bike in January, February next year, and then obviously we'll put the big group test together. But in terms of initial impressions, jumping on the bike, it's got that very familiar GSX-R feel about it. If you took all the badges off it, it's still a GSX-R. Hopefully, it sounds as good as the old bike. The old bike was winning and is still winning in World Endurance. So Suzuki didn't need to do much to the GSX-R, but I'm loving it in the anniversary colours. Can't wait to ride it. So kind of hidden away in the corner is the Yoshimura GSX-R 1000. This is the World Endurance bike for 2025. Well, a good mate of mine, Dan Linfoot, was riding it. But I just wanted to have a quick look around because there's some lovely detailing. Like all the brake lines are quick release. All the bike has been built to withstand a small crash with some crash protection. It's not like a BSB bike or a World Superbike. It's designed to be comfortable, to be ridden over a long period of time. It's designed that every part can be interchanged really quickly in case of a low-speed crash. Even got all the markings where the paddock stands are being thrown in really quickly on the front and the rear. This is an actual race bike that you can tell by all the little marks and the lock wiring and the fine details. They are a proper work of art, the World Endurance bikes. So as we're running around EICMA 25 into 26, we had to stop off at Insta 360. I'm here with Max, who's got new products for 2026, and a link with Marc Marquez. So please tell us more.
Yeah, that's our all-new X5 Marc Marquez edition. We just launched here at the EICMA show. It has all the features you know from the X5. It's a 360D camera with 2 lenses. It is able to capture the whole spherical image. And then later on, when you shoot everything, you are able to go back into the frame and choose the best moments, the best perspective after you have recorded it. So that's a game changer for any type of motorcycling applications, but also traveling, any type of content you're creating, because you basically can immerse yourself being in the moment and not having to worry about that you missed a shot. And with partnering up with Marc Marquez, we have some special features, some special accessories in the package now that you are ready to go whenever you're on the bike.
And how's it been the show to see the big rise in people using the Insta360?
It's super exciting, you know, for us it's the 3rd time being here at EICMA, and for us it's exciting because we can, as a camera band, be closer to our consumers and closer to our community. And we get a lot of inspiration, a lot of insights. In fact, a lot of the new features and accessories, we got inspiration also coming here from the EICMA show. And overall, it's an amazing show to be, and we're looking forward to continue to build this community and be close to it.
I think it's amazing how far we've come and what content we can get just from an Insta360. We use them all the time at 1000 PS, but the quality is just the quality is just superb. I wouldn't have guessed that 10 years ago. So it'd be interesting to see, and what is the future? What can we expect 26, 27?
I think there's definitely exciting things coming up. I can't obviously tell too much, but with Insta360, we are known for both innovating on the camera hardware side, but what differentiates us as a company is also really the software side. In fact, more than 60% of our engineers is focused on the software part. We also recently recruited a big number of AI engineers to further enhance the mobile experience, software experience side, to make it as easy as possible to share. And I think ultimately that's where we're heading to. It's not only about the hardware quality, it's really about the software capabilities. And that's where I think where Insta360 cameras shine. Whether you're like an entry-level beginner with the mobile app experience, or you're a prosumer, advanced editor who wants a desktop solution. We offer all of them, and we're really committed to really provide you the best experience overall.
I really appreciate your time. You are going to be the craziest, busiest stand when all the consumers come in here.
Looking forward to all the great visitors and great feedback.
Thanks for your time, mate. Thanks, Max. So we just moved over to the Honda stand, which, as ever, is mighty impressive. I believe this is the biggest stand here at EICMA. But it's not just new petrol bikes. For the first time, Honda are showcasing their new WN7, which is their all-electric kind of city commuter, which in Europe will be just over 15,000 euros. Top speed, 120 kilometers an hour, if I remember right. Belt-driven, single-geared electric bike. We'll get that through on the B-roll. But what I'm interested in looking at is their concept bike, the new 3-cylinder. We've seen the engine before, but not in an actual bike. And then there's bikes that we're actually going to ride at 1,000 PS, which is the CB1000F and the GT. So let's go check them out. So this is the first time we've seen the Honda Concept V3 actually in a chassis. This time last year at EICMA we saw the supercharged engine, but now we're actually seeing it in a chassis. According to Honda, it's going to have asymmetric design because we've got 2 cylinders going forward, 1 cylinder going back. That's going to be a bit like the styling. So the styling is more forward with a slim rear. According to Honda, it's also got the power of a 1200, even though it's a 900. What 1200 that is, I'm a little unsure. But it's good to see the bike finally in a chassis, and it looks like it's been actually ridden. I spoke to a few people I know at Honda, and apparently it has been ridden over in Japan. So this concept is a runner. Hopefully, we'll get to see it in action very shortly. Can't wait to hear what it sounds like. It's going to be interesting with 2 cylinders front and 1 cylinder back. But last year was the engine, this year's the chassis. Hopefully next year we'll see the final thing. So we've moved from the concept bikes and the electric bikes, the actual petrol bikes, the bikes we can ride. That is the familiar Honda Hornet that we've ridden many times at 1,000 PS, a real firm favourite of mine, a possible bike of 2025. And what Honda have done for 2026 is give us kind of 2 different variants using the Hornet as a base. So the first up is the CB1000 GT. Now the GT we're going to be riding in 2 to 3 weeks' time, which is based on the CB1000. As you see in that spec with the panniers is all standard, so you get the centre stand, you get the panniers, you get the handguards. But interestingly, electronically, you get an IMU. What that means is you've got cornering aids like ABS and traction control that are lean sensitive, where on the Hornet, you don't have that. We've also got electronic suspension as standard, 825mm seat height, and it's 150 horsepower, which is the same as the Hornet. And then for those who remember the kind of like 80s Freddie Spencer, we've got the CB1000F Retro. Again, obviously based on the Hornet, but again, we've got the IMU and the rider aids from the GT. So in very simple terms, you have an amazing Honda Hornet, a bike that I've ridden loads and I rate really highly, competitively priced, really took the competition by surprise. Then we've got the CB1000 GT that we're going to be riding in 2 weeks' time, which is kind of like a sports touring high-spec version of a Honda Hornet. And for those who want a little bit nostalgia from their Honda Hornet, you've got the CB1000F. Again, 150 horsepower based on the Hornet, but with more rider aids, more tech, and that really cool retro finish. We could spend most of EICMA just at the Honda stand. We've not had a chance to look at the new E-Clutch, which is available on the 500 models, and we've not had a chance to look at this great display of race bikes. That's Dean Harrison's actual TT winning bike behind me. But because this is the Italian motorcycle show, we are in Milan, it's about time we went and checked out some Italian machinery. So let's go check out the guys from Ducati. So we jumped over to Ducati stand, and the first bike that I wanted to see was the new Multistrada V4 Rally. And the reason for that is I'm going to be riding this bike in a few weeks' time in Italy. So essentially what it is the familiar Multistrada platform with a host of accessories and a host of rider aids thrown at the rally configuration. To describe the rider aids, first of all, we've got the Skyhook suspension. Now, the Skyhook suspension isn't new for Ducati, but it is for the new V4 Rally. So this is the very latest level Skyhook suspension, which essentially keeps the bike stable and the suspension going like crazy. If you can imagine a swan on a lake, feet going like crazy and the body stays still. And this is the latest incarnation of that. We've also got the DVO, which is Ducati's vehicle observation, if I remember rightly, which is virtual sensors telling the bike what's happening. And that's linked to all the rider aids. So we've got lean sensitive cornering, lean sensitive traction control, lean sensitive ABS. It has a full plethora of riding aids. Neat little touches which will be useful for me as a little short rider is you've got the automatic lowering, which removes the preload from the rear shock, which lowers the seat when I get below 10 kilometers an hour, and then it automatically increases once on the move. Familiar V4 engine, 170 horsepower, long service intervals, and the familiar now re-deactivation of the back two cylinders. So essentially it cuts the back two cylinders to save on fuel and to reduce heat. When we get to ride this bike in a few weeks' time, it's going to take a big day's riding to really get underneath it and to really understand the bike, because there is a lot of tech on this 170 horsepower adventure tourer. But we'll be bringing that test very shortly. In the flesh, it's a beautiful high level, as you'd expect from Ducati, but the proof will be when we get to ride it and once we get our teeth into all this technology. As we're over with Ducati, we had to come over and see their new Monster V2. Now, we've already got a separate full in-depth review of this bike on 1000 PS, so please check that out if you want to know all the technical details. Essentially, what Ducati have done is a redesign of the new Monster, but got rid of the Testastretta engine and put in the new V2 engine that we've already seen in the Panigale and the Street Fighter. Essentially, that engine is producing near enough the same power and torque as the old Monster with the Testastretta engine, but now it's considerably lighter. If I remember rightly, the engine is 6 kilograms lighter than the old Testastretta. That means this bike weighs 175 kilograms, which is incredibly light. I think it still looks like a monster with Ducati. It's obviously beautifully designed, but the proof will be when we get to ride the bike. That should be spring next year, but I was impressed with the V2 engine in the Panigale and in the Street Fighter, so hopefully it will just be impressive as the iconic Monster. We're with Ducati, so we have to look at their superbike. This is the new Panigale V4R, which is now Euro 5+. It didn't need that much more power and that much more torque. In terms of facts and figures, I think it's 235 PS, which is an incredible amount of power and an incredible amount of RPM. I rode the old bike, which is essentially a homologation special so people can go racing in Italian World and BSB Championships. And this will be the bike that you'll see in World and British and Italian Championships next year. The big talking point in terms of style and chassis is the double-sided swinging arm rather than the single-sided arm. The double-sided arm we've already seen on the Panigale V4S. I've tested that many times, and that just gave the bike more feel and more flex. So in theory, it should do the same. There is an argument that it doesn't aesthetically look as appealing as a single-sided arm, but because we're dealing with so much power and so much grip, we essentially need that double-sided arm. If you want to pick up a bucket of water that's really heavy with one arm, it's easier to do it with two arms. It makes it pretty simple and pretty straightforward. It was a big jump forward when Ducati did the V4S that I've ridden many times. The chassis felt very different. It was a lot easier to ride. It had a lot more flex with excellent rider aids. It'll be interesting when I jump on the V4R shortly. So behind me is the new Hypermotard SP, and slightly to the left is the standard Hypermotard. For 2025 into 2026, Ducati revamped the Hypermotard with the new V2 engine. The big talking point for me when you look at all the details is the actual weight of these bikes. Now bear in mind, I've ridden the old Hypermotard. It's a lightweight twin-cylinder supermoto, but they've managed to shave off some proper weight. So we've got 13 kilograms less on the standard bike and a staggering 14 kilograms less on the SP. So on the SP, we get the Öhlins suspension, the light wheels, and the updated Brembo brakes. But to shave that much weight off what is an already incredible light bike is a real big ask of Ducati. I can't wait to ride both motorbikes. Last night they got Ruben's House up on stage to introduce both bikes. He's an absolute legend, and I was there on the original launch when Ruben's House was doing all the sliding and backing in. He's a proper legend. So hopefully we'll be jumping on these two bikes shortly. But the big thing for me is that is going to be light, it's going to be agile, it's going to be fast, and it's going to have great electronics to back it all up. Can't wait to ride it. So at the unveiling last night, Ducati showed us the Pecco and Marquez training bikes. Now these are actual bikes that the guys use for training. They were using the V4 previously, now they're using the V2s. So each bike has got their own livery, which copies the crash helmets is either Marquez or Pecco. And then we've got a few extras like the mirror removal kit, the number plate removable kit. So they're all ready for the track. Now both bikes are available. You can buy these bikes. There are 22,500 euros listed here in Europe. Don't know what that will convert to in the UK or the US, but it's essentially a track-ready, either Pecco or Marquez-ready V2. I think they look great. I know it's just a paint job and removal of some bits, but to ride the bike that the actual GP guys use for training, that's pretty impressive. Ducati also showed us that the Panigale V2S will be available in yellow, so will the Street Fighter V2S. Now yellow is kind of like the secondary colour with Ducati, and I think it's just as synonymous almost as the red. The World Superbikes have been in yellow, and even sometimes the Moto GP bike. It's kind of just a personal choice whether you want the yellow or the red. There's no extra cost, but it's just something a little bit different. And for me, it was always the big bikes were in red and the smaller bikes were in yellow. But it'd be interesting to see your comments below. Red or yellow, you decide. So last night, as Ducati unveiled all their new models, we got a sneaky look at the new Desert X. Now, this will be a new model. It will be available next year, but there's limited information on the bike. We know it's going to have the new V2 engine, which is 890cc. We know it's going to have 110 horsepower, and we know it's going to be 206 kilograms. We can also expect leading technology both on and off-road, and the old Desert X, or the current Desert X, is a brilliant bike. It's a bike that I really love to ride both on-road and off-road, so I can't wait to ride the Desert X. But what is interesting is Ducati didn't end it there with their off-roading, because they jumped into the motocross world with a 450, and now they're jumping into the enduro world. So it's a road-legal 450 enduro bike, so we've got headlights, we've got brake lights. It's capable of going on the road, but it's also going to be their first ever enduro mode. And they're launching their first ever 250 motocross Desmo bike. That is going to be really interesting. It's going to, will have leading electronics, because the 450 motocross bike has been really top of the table when it comes to off-road rider rates. So we should be able to expect the same from the 250. The Desert X is, I think, April, May next year. Hopefully that's when we get to ride it. The 450 Enduro will be interesting, maybe out of my league, but I'm glad to see they brought in the 250, because that appeals to rather inexperienced riders like myself. So we've just jumped over to see Sena. Sena have got the new Outrush 2, which is going to be available next year. It's the first time the new crash helmet has been shown. Updating technology, updating the mesh intercom, and the Wave intercom, which is an app which allows you to jump between different crash helmets, which allows you to speak to any crash helmet. In perfect scenario, if you was in a desert, the distance they're quoting is 1,200 meters, but that's only if you can find the perfect scenario with no furniture, no lampposts, and no fields. Interesting helmet that we'll be testing at 1,000 PS when the helmets come to the office, hopefully early next year. So this is a bike that has been really highly anticipated, arguably the bike that a lot of people are coming to EICMA to see, and this is the new Manx R from Norton. Now the nostalgic Manx name goes back to the 1940s, 50s and 60s when Manx Norton was synonymous with Jeff Duke and all the Isle of Man TT wins. So to use that historic, nostalgic Manx name is a big step for Norton. First of all, I guess we've got to look at the looks and the styling, which is really exquisite, really different to everything else on the market. If you look really closely, it's difficult to see any fairing fasteners. Everything's enclosed. It's really neat and really smooth, and the wheels are just like a piece of art. Underneath is a 72-degree 1200cc V4 engine, completely new engine from Norton from the ground up. Suspension comes from Suzuki that is semi-active. We've got the high-spec, high-pure Brembo brakes, as you'd expect. The whole bodywork is carbon fibre and almost invisible fasteners. Really impressive. Full 8-inch touchscreen dash that is all touchscreen. Looks very simple and relatively easy to navigate. We've got full traction control, lean sensitive rider aids, everything you can possibly imagine. I think in terms of a statement by Norton, it says that they're back on the market, that they're back in business. This is one of several new models that we're going to feature here at EICMA. But the new Manx R looks absolutely stunning. I don't think Norton are aiming this bike to go against bikes like the Panigale V4R. This is more of a street sports bike, if there is such a thing. But hopefully we'll get to ride this bike in spring next year. I've got my name down on the list, so hopefully the guys back in the UK will let me ride it first. So this is the standard Manx. So the Manx R is the fully faired version. The Manx is the naked version of that 1200 V4 British produced engine. All the bikes are going to be produced just outside Birmingham in the UK, and this is the second new model to come from Norton. It's got the Suzuki suspension as before. We've got the same V4 characteristics. We've got this beautiful, beautiful finish with a new Norton logo. A lot of the bodywork is carbon fibre, single-sided swinging arm, but it's just a more relaxed, naked version of the stunning Manx R. So alongside the jaw-dropping superbikes and the naked Manx is the new Atlas family. Now this is kind of back to originality. This is not the poster bikes, even though they do look exceptional. So what we have is a 585 parallel twin with a 250-degree firing order. We don't know the full specifications of the Atlas. It's going to be available in two different variants, the spoked wheels and the mag wheels. We don't know price as yet, but I imagine it's going to be competing with other bikes similar in this range. Specification looks pretty huge. The massive 8 full-colour touchscreen TFT dash, exactly the same that you get on the Manx and the Manx R, but obviously with different information. Norton are aiming in their new brand, the new Norton, as a high-premium, high-end brand. So I assume it's going to be priced slightly above the competition in a desirable high-end section of the market. But it'd be interesting to see when we get the full specification on this bike, because at the end of the day, it's just under 600cc, it's a parallel twin, it seems, or to appears to be, quite entry level, but the proof will be in the pudding when we get the full specifications and we get to ride the bike. But it's good to see that Norton are not just producing super bikes and the poster bikes for a next generation, but there's going to be some real world bikes that we'll see come off the production line in Birmingham. So we've just done a little quick stop over at Chigee with their Motocycle smart riding systems. So essentially, they're bringing your older bike into modern technology. So with the bolt-on system, we can have rider recording, online navigation, we can have blind spot detection, tyre pressure monitoring, all done by a simple bolt-on system. So this is like modern technology on your 4 or 5-year-old bike. So you can have all the stuff that the modern day bikes have, like the rear radar detection and blind spot detection with a bolt-on accessory. So we've just moved across to the stand here at Benda, Chinese motorcycle manufacturer that, I'll be honest, not a huge depth of knowledge about, which is why I've got you, Luke. Good old mate. Tell us what we can expect from Benda in 2026.
Hi Chad, thanks for coming to the Benda stand. So behind us we've got the Benda Dark Flag 950. So it's China's biggest ever built V4. So yeah, 950 V4, designed, developed, built in China, so huge. A big statement piece from a cruiser. Yeah. It's all about, you know what a V4 is like, Chad. You know, it's the smoothness, the torque, that evocative feeling. So yeah, a real big statement piece, smooth ride, big presence. So that's production bike for next year. Behind us we've got the P51. That's a concept bike. Yeah. 250 boxer engine. That's a 250 hybrid, right? So when you've got the petrol and the electric, you've got 100 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 kilometer time at 3.7 seconds. How cool is that?
I can't believe that's a 250. That's awesome.
I know. So yeah, again, it's a new horizontally opposed engine, 250. So showing that out, and that's getting a lot of attention. We've also got the Rock 707 V-twin cruiser air suspension. So you've got 30 mils you can play with. When you come to a stop, it lowers. When you pull off, it goes up. So you can dial it in for your rider weight, for your passenger, and you can play with that. So really cool. Also electric clutch on that as well. So you can go from manual to auto. So that's it from the two-wheel Moto. Also got a whole bunch of concept engines on display. Inline 6-cylinder, a 700cc boxer twin, and a 550 inline 4. So Benda are pushing hard. They're doing things their way, doing things quite different. So really exciting times for them.
I would have never guessed that was a 250. That is awesome.
So light. It's like under 180 kilograms as well. So I was pushing it around on the stage, but yeah, I want to ride that.
Cool. Thanks for your time, mate. Always appreciated. Cheers, mate. So we just jumped over to see HJC to check out their new range for 25 into 26. This is their new 72 carbon. It's available both in carbon and obviously without carbon in different colours. HJC, it's the first time I wore HJC was in summer this year when we did a big test with 1000 PS. Really comfortable, pretty quiet actually. Got rid of the noise really well, and you got the integrated small tinted visor underneath. So it's available in both carbon and a variant of colours, which we'll show you in the B-roll. But hopefully we'll be wearing this when we go testing early next year. So we just jumped over to Yamaha. This is the new NMAX 155, new model from Yamaha with 2 rider modes, which is town and sport. We could do manual downshifts by a little shift button on the left-hand side, which is kind of cool. But the bikes that have really drawn my attention are some of the retro bikes, especially the sports bikes in the anniversary colours. So let's go check them out straight away. So this is the new R7 from Yamaha. How cool does it look in this red and white paint scheme? We'll get some B-roll of the original 1999 R1, which is red and white, which is what the paint scheme is based on. They're doing it both in the R125, the R3, the R9, and the R7. And for me, it's a real nostalgic throwback. But the R7 is new for 2026. What they've essentially done is put the engine in from the MT-07, so we've now got ride-by-wire. Now we've got ride-by-wire, we can control the fueling. That means we can have an IMU. So the electronics are almost derived from the R1. So we've got lean-sensitive rider aids now on the R7, which is phenomenal for this kind of middleweight entry-level sports bike. I think it looks phenomenal in this red and white, and it'll be interesting when we get the bike. I like the old bike, but compared to some of the competition and compared to other Yamahas in this range, it was lacking with that lack of rider aids. We all knew it was coming, we all knew they were going to put this engine in, and now they've finally done it, and just to put a cherry on top of a really fine cake, they've done it in this red and white anniversary that is beautiful. So I've just looked at the R125, R3, R7 and R9 in that red and white anniversary. This is the original R7. This was a homologation special so Yamaha could race it in World Superbikes. Phenomenal bike to ride. I've ridden a few of these over the years, but when you look at the old R7 in that anniversary colours, then you look at the new bikes, you can really see the similarity. And I know it's just pulling on memories, but it works. I think they look great. But if you want a real nostalgic throwback, let's go look at the Roberts XSR 900. When we talk about retro throwbacks, there's probably nothing more iconic than the Kenny Roberts yellow in Yamaha. I'd love to tell you that Yamaha have done loads of stuff to this bike, like change the power or maybe the fork internals to give it a sporty edge, but no, they've just painted it yellow. And half of me goes, well, that's not enough. And then the other half of me goes, I want that bike in my garage. Look at it. I absolutely love that. I've got to show you the retro. Check this out. I think I'm just from a certain age because this is a proper 90s icon for me, and I am absolutely loving it. So behind us we've got the Tracer 7. This is the GT, let me get this right, YAMT, which essentially to me and you is a Tracer 7 GT with an automatic gearbox. If you look closely, no gear selector. Now I've already ridden the standard Tracer 7 GT. We've got a full review of that video already on 1000 PS. Really love this bike, love the engine. They've essentially put the new ride-by-wire engine in, the one we've seen in the R7. Changed the chassis quite somewhat, made it much more comfier than you'd expect. We had a full day in the saddle and I thoroughly enjoyed this bike, but now it's optional available if you want the automatic transmission. That's down to you as a personal choice. But the Tracer 7 GT is a standard bike that we've ridden previously, excellent bike. I was even tempted to buy one, and that's saying a lot from me. So just before leaving Yamaha, we're going to check out the Tenere 700 World Raid. So for the first time, we've got an IMU, which means we've got rider modes, we've got slide control, and we've got cruise control as standard. Update based on the 2025 T7, 46mm upside down forks, new rear shock, new linkage, 220mm of travel on the rear and 230 at the front. So this is a proper off-road bike. We've got steel brake lines and a dual filler fuel tank, which doesn't really do much, but it does look really cool. Can't wait to ride this bike both on and off-road. The standard Tenere, great bike. In recent years, Yamaha really pulled up the socks with the Tenere, and this is kind of like the ultimate Tenere, ready to take on the world. So we jumped over to CF Moto to see their new concept bike. This is their new V4, 1000cc. If it goes as fast as it looks, it's going to be pretty damn impressive. Now, CF Moto should be taken seriously. I've ridden a few of their bikes in the past, and they're much improving year on year. Interestingly, with the V4, it's under the 1000cc limit, so it's homologated for World Superbikes or British Superbikes. So could CF Moto be entering the World Superbikes? Your guess is as good as mine. But I'm pretty sure they introduced this engine last year, which was around 209 horsepower at 14,500 RPM. And I think it was like 85 foot-pounds of torque. It looks impressive, lots of aerodynamics, lots of wings. We wait to see what the final bike will be. But I've ridden the 675. I've ridden a race version of that as well, and they're impressive bikes. Could we be seeing CF Moto in World Superbikes in a few years? Hopefully so. So we just jumped over to Kawasaki, who've got an array of new models for 2026. I'm going to start with the KLE 500. They kind of teased this bike last year by putting a front wheel out of a box, and nobody knew what it was, but we kind of guessed it might be an adventure bike. So it returns after, it must be nearly 20 years since we've seen a KLE 500. It's the 451 twin that we see in the Z500. No official performance data as yet, but it's going to be probably around the same kind of power as them as an entry-level bike. I would guess 45, 46 horsepower. Torque figures are nothing official yet, but we're looking at probably 92, 93 Newton meters of torque. Suspension travel, big 210, big 200, lots of travel but no adjustment, 16-litre fuel tank, and again, no specification on weight at the moment. And I guess it'll just have conventional ABS. But it's starting to enter a bit of a crowded market because for some reason at EICMA this year, there's a lot of models in this A2 kind of friendly adventure bike. Bikes from BMW and bikes from KTM. But it's good to see that the KLE has returned, and just on face value, it looks good. New for 2026 is the new Z900 RS. More of a tweak and an update rather than a complete revision of such a great bike. I actually had one of these a few years ago. Absolutely loved the retro styling, fell in love with it. Really easy to bike to ride, very smooth, very tractable. Even did a couple of track days on one. But for 2025 going into 2026, Kawasaki have addressed the lack of rider aids. So we've got ride-by-wire and an IMU. So that means, as we used to, lean-sensitive rider aids like ABS and traction control. The engine's had a little tweak, a little revision, 116 horsepower at 9,500 RPM, and we got 98 Newton meters of torque at 7.7. They reduced the flywheel weight a little bit, changed the gearing, changed the sprockets, tried to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more enjoyable, but it still should be really torquey and really usable. New exhaust as well, and I believe cruise control now comes as standard. The exhaust looks interesting. It should sound a little bit different. The old bike sounded great, really authentic, and I really loved the old bike. I thought it was just an easy-going, fun, retro bike that you can possibly take on track. We'll be riding this bike hopefully early next year. Hopefully the guys at 1000 PS send me out to ride this one. So this is the new Kawasaki Z1100. So we're up in capacity. It's actually 1099cc, but we'll let them off with that. 136 horsepower, 9,000 RPM, 113 Newton meters at 7.6. I believe we've got cruise control, a quick shifter as standard, We've got the ride-by-wire, which means we then have lean-sensitive rider aids, topping the scale at 221 kilograms, so she's a little bit heavy, but it packs a lot of power and a lot of punch. The old bike was a good bike, so we're expecting a lot. The bike that I'm actually sat on is the SE version. So this is the premium version. So you get the Brembo monoblocks, we get the braided lines, and we get the Öhlins rear shock. In Germany, it's 12,000 euros for the standard bike, and I think it's 13, just under 14 for the SE. So it'll be interesting when we get prices in the UK. I imagine Kawasaki are going to do a launch of both the standard and the SE at the same time. As I said, I've ridden the previous bike, really grunty, really throaty, really good bike. So we're expecting big things of the Z1100. I don't think it's competing with some of the extreme naked bikes. It's more on line with those kind of sporty, aggressive, big, powerful, big muscle bikes. So this is a bike we wasn't actually expecting to see here at EICMA. This is the new Kawasaki ZX-10R and ZX-10RR. I'll be 100% honest, I wasn't expecting it, but I'm glad it's here. So obviously the big talking point is the new aerodynamic wings, which give 25% more downforce than on the previous bike. The previous bike didn't have wings, it had like kind of air ducts around the headlight, which acted as wings. So obviously that affects the high-speed stability, affects braking performance, and there's a full electronics package. We haven't got any details on power and torque, but we know the chassis has been revised, so the swinging arm pivot has gone up a few mil. That should improve traction. We've got new linkage, we've got different spring rates, and we've got a complete new TFT dash. And I assume due to the new wings and the new electronics, we'll have new rider aids, because the bike will handle very different now we've got those wings. It'd be interesting to also see how this bike is developed as we move forward in racing. But this was kind of like the last of the big Japanese thousands not to have aeros, and now we've got it. Hopefully, again, nobody at 1,000 PS will put their hand up when we go to test ride this bike, and I'll be first in queue. It wasn't a bike I was expecting to see, but it's a real bike that I'm pleased Kawasaki have done. Top work, Kawasaki. So that's it from Kawasaki. Apparently they've been working every weekend and every Friday night, because we've got a new ZX-10. Thank you very much, Kawasaki. A new KLE 500, that's come back. And we've addressed the retro range with the 900, the Z650, not forgetting the new Z1100. A lot of exciting bikes from Kawasaki, but now, as we're in Italy, let's go check out some bikes from Aprilia, Moto Guzzi and Vespa. So we jumped over to Aprilia from Kawasaki. We tried to get on the stand earlier, but it was absolute carnage as everybody was trying to look at the new colours and new factory models. But now we've got a bit of time, we can explore the new colours and explore the new scooter from Aprilia. So last year we introduced the new RS V4 from Aprilia. No changes mechanically for the bike for this year, but all the factory versions do get a fresh new look and fresh new design. This purple looks absolutely awesome. Not ridden the new bike as yet, but hopefully I'll be doing that early next year. But we have got a review on 1000 PS if you want to check that out. Their new mid-size GT scooter. So this is single cylinder, 400cc displacement, which is 36 horsepower and 37.7 Newton meters of torque. Ready to ride weight, not wet weight, but ready to ride weight, is 186 kilograms. The forks are 41 mil upside downers, which are very similar to the 457 forks, and so is the Brembo radial brakes, which are very similar to the 457, or could be the 457. 16-inch front, 14-inch rear, with 190 mil of ground clearance, which is quite a lot for a scooter. So it's been designed, I guess, to take on a few gravel roads that you do get in Southern Europe, in Spain, and in Italy. 120 on the front and a 150 on the rear. We've got a 12-litre fuel tank, which should give us a range of over 300 kilometres. It's Bosch ABS, which is dual channel, not lean sensitive, but we do have ABS. And we have traction control as standard with a seat height of 820 mil. I think it's a really cool looking scooter. Aprilia really know how to do scooters. It's kind of an off-roady, kind of go anywhere, really cool 400cc scooter. I'm looking forward to riding it, which is going to be March next year, hopefully. Hopefully it'll be somewhere nice and sunny in Italy. But let's move from Aprilia scooter to the anniversary Vespas. So we jumped over to Vespa, who are celebrating 80 years of their design history. So we've got the new Vespa Primavera, if my pronunciation is correct, and the Sprint S. So that's got the new 12-inch 5-spoke front wheel, new bodywork, slight redesign. The old drum brake, that's been replaced with a 220mm disc brake rather than drum. And for 2026, all Vespa models over 50cc will have a keyless ignition. We've also got the Piaggio Beverly 25th anniversary. That's just a colour variant. But let's move from Vespa and let's head to see what BMW are doing. We've jumped over to BMW to see the final version of their new F450 GS. Now last year at EICMA we saw a prototype and we were on like tenterhooks because we so wanted them to produce this bike. We heard the engine roar, we heard it rev, and now finally the end product, the production bike is here. So let's go through some facts and figures. 420cc from a parallel twin. It's right on the cusp of what an A2 license can be with 48 horsepower and 43 Newton meters of torque. It's double overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder, 6-speed transmission with an optional Shift Assistant Pro. Final chain drive as we'd expect, not bile, and the exhaust is stainless steel. The frame is tubular steel with the engine as part of the integration. We've got a 1465 wheelbase and quite a relaxed trail. The suspension comes from KYB, and as you'd expect for that off-road, you've got 180mm of travel on the front and 180mm of travel on the rear. We could have changed the spring preload and the rebound damping, and then there'll be a sports version where we could also change compression. Cast wheels, interestingly, BMW have gone for a 19-inch front rather than a 21-inch, and a 130/80/17 on the rear. A Brembo 4-pot caliper up front on a 310 disc, and the rear disc is a 240. Now what's really interesting is that BMW enter this really kind of competitive A2 market of adventure bikes, and it's really interesting that they brought the GS name down to 450. So this is now going against bikes like the KLE 500 that we've just seen from Kawasaki. You could throw in the Royal Enfield Himalayan, you could throw a KTM in there. It's going to be a highly contested category, but judging by what BMW normally do, they should be leading the field in terms of tech and finish and dash and rider aids, because it's got the familiar dash that we've seen on other BMW models. We're going to get to ride the bike in early next year, that's the plan, and from the pictures and the images we've seen online, it looks very capable off-road. We're going to have lots of rider aids to help us. We're going to have ABS Pro, we're going to have dynamic brake control, MSR, which is your drag torque control, DTC, and in standard we'll have rain, road and enduro mode. Then obviously there'll be an Enduro Plus and other packages depending on how and where you want to ride. I think it looks fantastic in the flesh. I'm so happy that BMW have produced this kind of baby GS or entry-level GS, call it what you want. But the potential of having this engine in a lightweight chassis with such off-road capabilities, to me, equals a lot of fun. Can't wait to ride it, and I can't wait to put it against the competition. It's interesting that BMW have used the GS name, something I didn't think they were going to do, but it looks great in the flesh. So while we're over at BMW, we've come over to see the Concept RR. Now this is a concept superbike by BMW that we saw in Italy, and we did a little video on this. So if you scroll down on 1000 PS, you'll see a separate video on this where we fire the bike up. It also went up the hill at Goodwood and sounded fantastic. It should do, because in there is essentially Top Rack's World Superbike engine in a kind of modern concept bodywork, which gives us an indication of what to expect for the new S1000RR and potentially M1000RR. But in terms of appeal, I love the big tank. It's kind of got that world endurance kind of look about it. It looks like it's doing 1,000,000 miles an hour stood still. And hopefully one day, the guys at BMW will let me ride it. We just jumped over to see the guys at Arai, and really Arai shouldn't have any introduction. In my mind, they're one of the market leaders in crash helmets. Not only are they showing their full off-road and on-road range, but they're also showing how they test the actual crash helmets with the dead weight, and also we've got the ability to actually stand on one of the shells. So, if you think about how much value you put on your head, that's pretty impressive. So not only do they have the full range, but they've also got all the shells to show you what's inside the helmet. I've worn Arai for many years in racing, and I absolutely love the product. It's a product that I really trust. And that's been there for a few days, and nobody's managed to break it yet. So one of the most interesting bikes at the show is the prototype from CF Moto. We had a quick look at the bike yesterday, and I've chatted to some of the engineers, but they're not giving us any information on peak power or peak torque, wheelbase, weight, etc. Although we do know it's under that 1000cc, so it should be, in theory, homologation ready. What is interesting is that the wings at the front are actually adaptive and they move slightly. Now, whether that's to increase or decrease downforce at certain speeds, we're not too sure, and they won't let us. But in theory, wings create downforce, but they also create drag. So if you've got lots of drag at high speed, that reduces top speed, but you do want downforce in certain areas. So I am assuming they're speed related, or maybe they're independent and change depending on if they're connected to an IMU, so they maybe change when you're leaning. So less or more downforce depending on speed. It'd be interesting to see when we finally get all the details on this bike, which is going to be summer next year. But for me, I think this is the first time somebody's used adaptive wings. I know it's been widely spoken about, and it makes sense to connect the wings to the IMU, because the IMU tells the bike what it's doing. So in theory, you could have less or more downforce depending on lean angle, speed, and even brake force. It's going to be interesting times from CF Moto. So while we're over at CF Moto, obviously we've been looking at the prototype, but this is an actual bike. Now, CF Moto have already got the 450, they've already got the 700, and they've got the 800 MT, and this kind of tops the lineup. This is their new 1000. Now, it uses the KTM 990 engine that we've seen a few times before. In terms of figures, 113 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, 77 foot-pounds of torque at 6,250 RPM. That's from that 94cc parallel twin that is, let's say, borrowed from KTM. Really impressive, huge TFT display. I've already ridden the 450 and the 700 and the 800. We're all really good bikes. The 450 I've spent lots of time on. Really good value for money, and we rode that, I think that was in Thailand. We've got reviews of those all on 1000 PS. But it'd be interesting to see if this is the last of this CF Moto KTM partnership. It'd be interesting to see what they've done with that KTM engine. On paper, it should perform. On paper, the electronics and the rider aids should be good. But the proof is in the pudding when we actually get to ride the bike, which will hopefully be early next year. Prices haven't been released yet, but like the other models in this range, it should be priced very competitively and have the competition worried. So we jumped over to MV, who've got 3 new models on their stand for 2025 into 2026. This is the updated Enduro Veloce. We've already ridden the Veloce previously, so if you want a review on this bike, please check out one of the links below at 1000 PS. It's a new model year, and basically what MV have done is thrown a few accessories on the bike, but still kept the price in Germany for under 20,000 euros. So we've got the standard equipment panniers now, which increases the load. We've got a main stand, we've got the crash bars, we've got the fog lights, and we've got the Bridgestone AT41 tyres that are a bit more capable off-road than the standard tyres. So essentially, the great Enduro Veloce with more luggage, more practicality, and more ability to go off-road. But now let's go check out something a little bit more special. So 2 new Brutales to come from MV. We've got the Brutale 800 and the big 950 that we'll show you very shortly. So for 2025 into 26, the Brutale 800 is 113 horsepower at 11,000 RPM and 85 Newton meters of torque at 7.5. Obviously, with it being MV, we've got an IMU, which means lean-sensitive traction, lean-sensitive ABS, 4 riding modes, and a big 5.5 TNT dash. Cruise control comes as standard, and we've got Bluetooth connectivity. Now, I believe that MV have just dropped this in price a little, and they've also dropped it in power to make it a little bit more user-friendly, because they've got the big new Brutale that we're just about to show you that I've exclusively already done previously. So this is the premium model. This is the bike that everybody's looking forward to, and I have to get off stage pretty quick because people are taking photos of me. But this is the new Brutale 950. Now this is the limited edition version. Just 300 units are going to be available. Now we got the opportunity to ride the prototype to this model from the MV factory a couple of months ago. So if you want to check out a full review of the prototype, please follow down on 1000 PS and you'll see a review of the prototype. It essentially uses the engine from the Enduro Veloce. So that's 931cc. It's now a triple rather than the 800 triple. So we've got a lot more power and a lot more torque. When I rode the bike from the factory, the standard bike, it was almost very MV-like. Normally MV produced really kind of race-focused bikes for the road. And what I mean by that, a Brutale is normally a naked race bike on the road. But this new Brutale is very different. It's got lots of power, it's got lots of torque, it's really strong from the bottom end, loads of mid-range, and absolutely sounds sweet as a nut. The switchgear is all new, the TFT is all new, multiple rider modes, as you'd expect from MV, cornering traction control, cornering ABS, anti-wheelie, launch control, cruise control, tick every box, it's got every box. But believe me, this is very different from MV. This is usable, torquey, rideable, roomy, plush, comfortable. This is an MV you can ride all day and not have to ring your chiropractor at the end of it. It'd be interesting when we ride the limited edition. There's only 300 units available, but I guess it's probably going to have to be spring next year when the weather improves. But when it does improve, I'll be one of the first to ride the limited edition new MV Brutale 950. We jumped over to Indian motorcycles. We're going to check out the new Sport Scout, but I also wanted to check out the Bagger race bike. Now, I've actually ridden a version of this back in the UK in Anglesey, the bike that McWilliams won at Daytona. It's an incredible feat of engineering and incredibly fun to ride in a very different way. But let's look at the actual new road bike that you can buy in 2026. New for 2025, going into 2026 on the stand here at EICMA is the new Sport Scout RT. So 94 horsepower, 248 kilograms dry, or 257 fully fueled. Little 13-litre fuel tank, comes with the luggage, comes with the panniers. I think it's an attractive looking bike. Indian are really making big steps with their technology as well. So we've got a 4-inch TFT display, we've got cruise control, we've got traction control, and we've got a little USB charging point. As you'd expect, ABS because it's Euro 5+. So we just jumped over to Schuberth, who've got their first noise-cancelling crash helmet. Now that kind of makes complete perfect sense, and I'm amazed that nobody's done it before. So if you're sick of wearing earplugs, sick of trying to get rid of road noise and wind noise, Schuberth have got a balancing system. So it's not about making the helmet silent, it's about balancing the noise to make sure that you're not hearing that wind and road noise. It's also pre-wired for plug and play. So you don't have to mess about fitting everything. It's already compatible with the Cardo and Sena system. So we jumped over to Harley Davidson and we're on their new Pan America 1250 ST. When the Pan America arrived, it was an adventure-styled bike with the 19-inch front wheel, competing with bikes like the really popular BMW GS. But now Harley Davidson have decided to put 17-inch front wheel, 17-inch rear wheel. So they're more conventional, 120/70 on the front, 180/55 on the rear. So it's kind of a sports touring, more road-focused Pan America. Really high-quality suspension, good braking performance, 17-inch wheels, much more road-orientated with Michelin rubber. Quick shifter is going to come standard, and there's a few changes to the gear ratios because we're now on 17-inch wheels rather than those off-road bias-sized wheels. In theory, those 17-inch wheels will allow the bike to steer faster, it'll be more road-focused, but obviously we've no longer got any off-road potential with the 17-inch wheels. Hopefully we'll be riding this bike in 2026. The bike's always been powerful, it's always had lots of performance, but now with 17-inch wheels, it should handle really good on the road. As we're at Harley Davidson, we've come out to check the new LiveWire concept models, which includes the Alpista, it includes a new scooter, and we've got the Corsa version and the standard version. Now we can go into details about the lightweight BST wheels, the Öhlins suspension, and the unusual layout and style, but it's all about the battery and the fast charging. So what Harley Davidson are claiming that between 20 to 80% of charge will take just 10 minutes. And because they're reducing that time, they're finding a balance. So if you've got a big battery, it takes a long time to charge, which means you're sat around at a coffee shop for an hour to 2 hours waiting for your bike to charge. If you've got a smaller battery and your range isn't as big, but it only takes 10 minutes to charge, then we don't mind that. So you can ride for 100 to 200 kilometers, take a coffee break, fast charge for 10 minutes and go again. Now this is a concept model. I'm unsure if we'll see this as an end production, but seeing the battery, the technology and the fast charge, it's something that we'll definitely see. So having the capability to have a LiveWire that will charge between 20 to 80% in 10 minutes is definitely a big key product for EICMA for 2025 to 2026. So we've just jumped over to Eyelights, who in partnership with Schuberth are doing the first head-up display inside the crash helmet, inside the visor. Really interesting, first time we've seen it in the market, basically giving very simple navigation or speed or revs, depending on what you want. Battery life is around 10 hours, and don't worry, it doesn't cover the whole visor, just a small part of the visor. Really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how the market takes it. So New are expanding their XQi lineup. So we've got the XQi 400 and the 500, which are both road legal. The 500 is 28.8 kilowatt peak power with a top speed they claim of 110 kilometers an hour. Lightweight chassis, just 92 kilograms, and both bikes are road legal with headlights, indicators and mirrors as you'd expect. So new in the lineup for 2026 is the new FQ iX 150 and the 300, which is kind of their entry level into the market, into their range. Completely different design as what we're usually expecting from this brand. We've normally got that really round headlight, really rounded styling, and now we've gone very angular and very different to what we've had historically from this brand. So this is the NQiX 1000. This is the most powerful model in their series, with a top speed that they claim of 125 kilometers an hour. It features 3 removable batteries, offering 100 kilometers of range and flexible charging options. It's going to be launched in the market in the third quarter of 2026, and the price in euros is 6,499, which will be after summer, so third quarter of 2026. Should be interesting. So we just popped over to see D30, or an English firm producing body armor, including back protectors, shoulder protectors, knee protectors, designed to go in different garments from Triumph, Furigan, RST. There's a huge amount that you'll find this kind of body armor. It's really light, it's really breathable, really airy, but it's designed to absorb the impact and then disperse it. So if you think almost like throwing a stone into a pond, it ripples the dispersion. Because what you don't want is the impact to hit you directly. You want it to disperse the impact, to just give you bruising rather than breaking. Really lightweight, really airy, and it's interesting to see all the technology and how it's used in different garments. This is the new D30, the new back protector. This is the kind of same stuff that you'll see in leathers from Lee Johnson, Michael Dunlop at the TT, but obviously with the interlocking gas canister for the airbag. But interesting product, definitely worth coming over and checking out. While we're here at EICMA, we thought we'd come over and see some of our partners who help us out at 1000 PS. This is Hepco Becker, and this is their new Seros, kind of hard, rugged side bags, are designed for adventure bikes. So hopefully when we get our little adventure bike group test together, we can also test the bags. 100% waterproof, as you'd expect, big luggage capacity. But what's kind of cool and kind of interesting, there's a little valve on the side. So once you've emptied the bag and it remains on the bike, you can compress the bike so it's much, much smaller, close the valve to get rid of all the air. 100% waterproof, easy locking system with a rollback top. Hopefully we'll get these in to test shortly at 1000 PS when we do our small adventure bike test. So that's it for EICMA 2025. 47,000 steps, over 70 new models plus products. It's been an epic, epic journey. We hope you've enjoyed the video. Please click subscribe, because in the coming months we're going to be testing all those new models. First up for me is the Ducati Rally. First up for Mr. Bauer is the Yamaha GT. So stay tuned to our channels. Now it's time to go ride.